Hello and welcome to the Leading People podcast. I'm Mita Sani and I'm really pleased to be joined by Maggie Rose today. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Mita. I'm glad to be here.
Really good to have you here today. Thank you for joining. So, Maggie, just to set the scene a little bit, the Leading People podcast is all around us sharing our journeys and hearing from you today about your successes and your experiences as a business leader and leader of people and some of the successes you've created in your business over the years. And sometimes being a business owner and a business leader, it can feel lonely, right? You know, the peer group really isn't there at work, you know. So I'm hoping that our podcast series can help other business leaders to get some insight and support and guidance through their own career journeys.
Great.
Let's get started. So for the next 20 or 30 minutes, I'm going to just be really hearing about you, because you have done some amazing things. I mean, first and foremost, you are the winner of Mentor of the Year from the Women of the Future, and also you're a judge on the entrepreneur category of Asian Women of Achievement. I'm surprised we didn't cross paths, because I was a finalist a couple of years back on that. But hopefully what that tells us is that we've got a similar mindset about really looking out for talent and wanting to nurture and mentor and develop talent for the future. So hopefully this podcast will help with that. And you have your own business, which is MROI, and you're the founder of that organization. Tell me about MROI first. Tell me about your business.
Okay, so I founded MROI 27 years ago now. Seems extraordinary to say, actually. I sort of think, that ages me a bit. But yeah, it was 27 years ago. And we help leaders and teams drive different results. And that's through team effectiveness, really looking at team effectiveness and the quality of decisions that are made either for leaders themselves or about their business and with their teams, to ultimately be leaving a lasting legacy. I mean, every business owner, every chief exec, every leader wants results, right? Mm-hmm. So, results that have meaning, results that last. And that's what we love helping our clients with, is creating that lasting legacy.
It's interesting what you said about making decisions quickly. And when I was reading a bit about your bio and MROI, you talk about getting to these decisions, better decisions, faster. And, for me, that really just sum up some of the challenges of a business leader without this peer group and without always having the experience of decisions. So what do you think it is that you bring to them? Do you bring reflection? Do you bring experience? How do you help business leaders get better at decision making?
Well, I think first and foremost, what we're offering is a space, actually, initially, is just to take the time to really reflect and think about what we're creating. I mean, it's such, we're all under such demands all the time. Life is very busy, whether you're running a small organization, whether you're running a large organization. The pace of life is so huge. We all know that. There's simply initially just taking some time to reflect and think about, actually, what am I trying to cause through my leadership? What does my leadership really stand for? And whether that's me as an individual leader or us as a senior team, what is it we're trying to cause in the world? And perhaps one way of looking at it is to say, when we're here, when we've gone, we're here now, but when we've gone, when that next generation of team remembers us and talks of us, what's going to make us feel really proud that they remember about the difference that we really make? Yeah. And the same goes for us personally. What will people say about us when the next generation sits in our seat? Because belonging in an organization is only ever temporary. We belong in our families forever, but in an organization, even if we founded the organization, even if we own it, it's not a lifetime relationship. It's a long relationship often, but it's not a lifetime relationship. So what is the meaning of our time? What do we want to be remembered for? I think that's the starting place. And then everything then is informed by that.
Yeah. I love that. That brings me back to the whole finding your why and really that's what actually brings people on your journey, is when you can really demonstrate that authentic message and the authentic experience of what it means to come along on your journey. And so for you, Maggie, when did you realize that you were going to be the master of your own destiny and not fulfill somebody else's dreams? I mean, having your own business for 27 years, that, you know, I always think it's really brave. I know I've done it. I can't sort of tap into it because you just do what you do. But having the benefit of talking to business leaders and hearing the successes, I'm going to use the word brave. I think it is really brave. You know, when did you have that moment that you thought, I'm going to do this for myself?
I was 16, Mita.
Wow.
That's when I knew. And I knew that and I committed to it. And I started to put money away in a bank account and to set up the business, whatever it was going to be ultimately. And I had no idea what it was going to be. It could have been a wonderful tea room, or it could have been anything. I had no idea, but I did know that I was going to have my own business one day. And I guess for me personally, that was a sort of an act of sort of creation, really. So I really felt that was within me. So just squirreled away the money that I had. And
that's amazing.
Many, many years later, drew the money out of that bank account.
That's fantastic. So at the start of your career, you did work for organizations, you did, and what was your thinking doing that? You know, because there are a lot of people that will be watching, you know, there'll be experienced business people, there'll be entrepreneurs, there'll be young people coming into their careers and looking at this and thinking, well, which is the best path to take? And I know everyone's path is unique, but tell me about yours. Why did you decide to work for organizations first, and what did you want to get from that?
Sure. I definitely would not have set my business up coming straight out of education. I really wanted to learn about business. I knew I loved business, and I joined Marks and Spencer's. Actually, that was the beginnings. And back then, frankly, doing the management training program with doing an apprenticeship. I mean, it could have been called an apprenticeship, and I'm a great fan of apprenticeships. And that's what it was. That was the beginning of my career. And I'm eternally grateful to them for those early years. And I worked with them for, it was 7 years in all. And it was fantastic. I followed a very sort of commercial and operational path and loved it. Really, really loved it. And then I progressed my career in the retail and service sector, always in the sort of commercial and operational stream, learning lots along the way, and latterly ended up as an HR director. So my career basically went from the sales floor to the executive table, and I wouldn't replace that. It was phenomenal experience. I didn't go to university, and I remember in the early days of working with some of my clients when they were saying, "Oh no, we only recruit graduates," and their criteria, and I was thinking, my goodness me, you're buying consultancy services from me, I'm coaching you, but you wouldn't employ me. Yeah. Criteria. So I sort of kept that one quiet, and so I would absolutely support anybody forging their way in business and in a number of businesses to get a real breadth of perspective. So I work for very established organizations, very entrepreneurial organizations along the way, and in different roles. So eternally grateful to that history.
Well, it's interesting what you said about business leaders. Oh, sorry, I had a little time like that. I was just saying it's interesting what you said about business leaders having this real expectation of what good will look like for their world. And I'm a firm believer, especially because our organization in the background is recruitment and talent attraction and retention, that it's not the skills that can be taught that are key. It's the mindset, the attitude, the cultural fit. Those are the important factors when aligning employees, aligning strategic partners, aligning, suppliers and so on. But there's something about, again, this kind of old school mindset, which I think, do you feel that's starting to shift now?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. And I also think this sort of old school has wisdom too. Yeah. So I'm always minded to say, actually, what was the wisdom in that's useful, as well as what's the new thinking that's required. So, and it's interesting in working with our clients, sometimes digging back into good old stuff that used to work many years ago when we started the business. for a new generation of client, it's a revelation for them.
Yeah.
So I always think there's wisdom to be taken from history as well as forging a new path.
I love that. I really love that. What it may not be fit for these times, but what was the wisdom in it? And then take that and apply it for the current time. I love that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And at the moment, for example, I mean, goodness me, so many. We're all faced with this extraordinary time at the moment. And one of the questions I've been asking leaders that we're working with at the moment is, whilst the actual sort of substance of what we're dealing with, COVID, is new in my lifetime, new in everyone's time, right? My question to them is, when have you faced similar at which you've succeeded? It wouldn't be different content, but when have you faced something that's sudden, unexpected, enormous, life-changing, at which you've succeeded? And it's interesting how leaders are now tapping into, oh, actually, I do know how to lead through. I do know how to manage my business through this. I do have experience, rather than everything appearing new and everything new being wiped off the slate. It's not the case. There's wisdom to be tapped into.
Yeah, almost like a muscle memory of the last time we were here.
Exactly.
And I know for me, even in 20 years, there's been 2 recessions and Brexit, which have all sort of rocked the boat. So yeah, that's interesting, the muscle memory as well of it. One of the things I wanted to ask you then is, how did you go from being an HR director to saying, right, I'm finally going to tap into those savings? What was the unique moment? What were the what had to align for you to do that, and what was that for you to start MROI?
For me, it was becoming really clear on the founding spirit of my business.
Okay.
And that just really crystallized in my mind. And that was 2 things, 2 pillars for me. One was return on investment, and the cynicism in business, understandable cynicism in business around return on investment when spending money in the name of people and culture. And, as a line leader myself, Mita, I had sent people off on different training programs, development programs. They'd come back and I'd say, right, let's carry on with the day job, and
it never happened.
It was like, well done, you've done that, fantastic. Yeah. So sort of, my conscience is satisfied, thank you. Now let's carry on. There wasn't that connection between development and commercial return. And as a commercial beast myself, I just thought, no, this is not good enough. How do you spend money in the name of people and culture and actually drive a return for the business?
Yeah.
Really make a difference to results. So it was that curiosity that was a real founding pillar. And then the other was my just love of business. And I truly believe, Mita, that business leaders in our world can make the most significant difference to our world through the choices they make.
Yeah.
And I mean, governments are local. That's what they pay attention to. The country, but a business leader can truly make a global impact, and contribution means so much more than the bottom line. Bottom line is important, vital, but the only contribution that we can leave behind. So it was my belief in the power of leaders, and during these months it's been inspiring to see how leaders have connected across competition for a greater good. I mean, look at the way the supermarkets have behaved in the UK. Wonderful to see unusual collaborations between organizations to, again, for the greater good.
Yeah.
I welcome that. And that for me has been a source of joy during this time, to witness that in leaders in business.
Yeah.
And I hope that spirit remains very alive.
Me too.
So those are my 2 founding pillars.
That's fantastic. And you're right, that has really come back to life. I would use the ventilator challenge as an example of that. And I just think this humanity of business, which sometimes the 2 don't go together, have actually started to mesh again. And I think that hopefully, I hope that stays. I think overall, especially working over Zoom and working from each other's homes, the allowance for people to not only be great at what they do, professional, but also human beings and authentic, it's really going to enhance value, isn't it, in those relationships?
I agree. And I think even before this time, the integrity of business, the integrity of leaders was really being called out by society.
Yeah.
And social media, of course, absolutely supports that. But, the general public want to be dealing with organizations that stand for something meaningful. And that voice has been there for a while and is increasing and getting louder and louder. That's not going to go away.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, I mean, it's hard to say positive impact of the pandemic, but perhaps there can be some good lessons learned in this difficult time.
Yeah, I agree.
So tell me about MROI then. Tell me about the journey of this organization and your baby over the last nearly 30 years.
Yes. Yeah. I got a real baby that's 17 now, but
amazing.
My one was born first. So we work with leaders through all stages of the leadership life cycle. So that starts with onboarding.
Yeah.
So, is joining the organization when they're building their team. And that might be actually supporting them to build their team, whether that's structurally or actually the dynamics of the team and the effectiveness of the team, or it might actively be working with the team.
Yeah.
To, those first 6 months, getting feedback on what's the impact that you're making, building your stakeholder relationships across the organization and outside of the organization, getting really clear on your legacy, of course, that you want to leave, and ultimately through to leaving the organization. So the whole cycle, that's where we work with organizations. But the origins of the business, actually, we started as a training company. We were doing middle manager training. And many of us had come from training backgrounds at that stage. And it was in working with those organizations, and we were getting feedback, love the training, thank you very much. But we were picking up stuff that was going on in the organizational system, when you've got a group of people in a room for a day or 2 or 3, pick up a lot of stuff that's going on in the business. So we were taking that back to the business. We were taking the value that we were hearing from the services that we were selling back into the organization and saying, look, actually, this is what's really going on. And would you like us to support you really exploring this further and moving forward in terms of how your senior leadership are and how your culture is evolving? And that was the beginning of then getting into coaching leaders across organizations globally. Now, of course, all online.
Yes.
About 50% of our time, and the balance of our time is working with teams or groups in one way, shape or form. So I would love to say it was strategic foresight, Mita, but 5 years in, and well before coaching took off and became sort of really known, we were there coaching leaders and coaching senior teams. So that's how it evolved.
Yeah, I mean, that's really smart and that's another example of something that you're doing, which I think business leaders find very difficult, is that consultative, insightful understanding that perhaps as a business leader one might glean, but your trainers might not necessarily pick up those signs that would have shown, hey, there's another layer of value we can add. Was that you doing that, or did you train your people to be as good as you when they were out on the front line of training?
Oh, you know what, Mita? My team, I'm so lucky with my team. We're just a team of 10. We're a small business, small but global. Yeah. And over the years, I have been so blessed with so many amazing colleagues. It's just been fantastic. And even now, there are members of the team that have been with me for over 20 years. So a number of us have been together for a very long time. And they're brilliant. They're brilliant. I've recruited my team based on, of course, their competence. But, one of the measures I have is if they can coach me, then that's great. I trust them with my clients. So that's really, really important to me is of course their competence, but the best test of that is, can they coach me? I don't think I'm necessarily the best coach. I'm the best coach for some clients, but not for all. And we have this lovely diversity in the team to be able to make the right match of coach or facilitator or trainer for the client. So yeah, it was less about me training them and more about being introduced to some amazing people over all of these years, and having had the privilege to work with them, but being very clear equally on the standards that I want, recruiting my team in, which is, of course, their capability, which I test by thinking, would they give me a run for my money in coaching? And do I trust them with my reputation? So as the owner of the business, those have been my two key measures when I'm looking to bring somebody in. And some of that's really, you can evidence, but some of it's also gut instinct.
Oh, that word gut instinct. It's so hard for somebody from the outside in understanding, especially if they're starting their career, because they haven't fine-tuned their gut instinct to know. But it is key, isn't it? It's almost like the final check on a list of, you've got some tangibles and then you've got this intangible like gut, and you don't trust one over the other, but you pull them together and then you make an informed decision.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Misa. It's absolutely that balance of head, heart, and gut. I often think it's a way system.
Yeah.
Are all of those saying yes? I know. And if there's data from one that goes, there's something useful in that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And look, let's be clear. I've equally made mistakes in recruitment. We all do. But it's a case of then recognizing that as early as possible. And sometimes I haven't. But sure, I've made mistakes. But I'm blessed with a fantastic team now.
I think they're blessed to have you, from the sounds of things as well. It's always a partnership, these things. It's never one way. So that's amazing. And I thank you for your sort of openness about mistakes along the way as well. We all do make mistakes. And again, because we're positive and we're driven and we want to make the best of situations, sometimes we don't pause to share that it's not easy. And sometimes, especially in times like now, it's gut-wrenching. But over time, we can get back into the good and the winning, and it makes all that challenge worthwhile, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it really does. I'm a great believer in fail fast. Experiment, fail fast, and then move on.
Yeah, and not beat yourself up over it. Just learn and move forward. Yeah. So Maggie, something that you and I have been speaking a lot about is, how like one, working in partnership. So, we're not an island, are we? As much as we're bosses and we're owners, but we also like to add value out to our business community. We're also parents. You and I have that in common. And we also have a duty of care to ourselves, which so often can be overlooked. How have you managed to bring that balance into your life over your career?
Gosh, it's so important, firstly, to bring that balance in some way. And I don't think there's a one size fits all. And I think actually the pressure of what works for one person versus what works for another, that can be, that needs to be put in perspective. It's like exercise. What works for one person doesn't work for another. What works for somebody in terms of relaxation or rest, it's all different. So it's working out, what does balance look like for you? I've actually brought my son up on my own as well. So that is really another thing in the mix. So I was a single mum with a baby and a business that was already motoring along. So I think the first thing is an amazing team, like I said before, both at work, but also at home and around my family. I mean, thank goodness, for support from family and some key people in my life who have been amazing to help me and support me. So I think looking at the team in the broadest sense in your life when you're in business is really vital. But also being very clear on my own priorities. I made a commitment. I mean, it's a really simple example, but I made a commitment that I would make sure I was at the school gates for 5 of the 10 pickups or drop-offs per week. So that was like an early commitment. So I just worked my diary to ensure that I kept that commitment to myself, although it was never explicit to my son. It was like my internal commitment as a mum. And that's a very simple example. But I mean, the lovely thing is when you run your own business, frankly, if you get it wrong in terms of your balance of life, you've only, you only got yourself to blame, because we're masters of our own destiny when we run our own businesses. We haven't got anybody else to answer to. So for sure, I worked very flexible days, and I still do. And that can mean that I sit up, late at night, or on occasions, into the early hours, and will be up very early working. But then if I can be taking my son out for 2 or 3 hours, or doing something for myself personally, I'll do it. So the whole of my team work on a very, very flexible pattern. And we've been this way for a number of years, so that our work life and our family lives are really respected.
Absolutely. And equally important to the success of the family, the success of the career and the organization, and the completeness and wholeness of oneself, so that we can continue this journey. And as you've said, you've had some of your people for over 20 years, which is obviously a testament that you've got that balance right, which is amazing.
Well, it's not always been right. I mean, there are days when, it's sort of like, but, we can negotiate with ourselves over the pressure we put on ourselves. I think sometimes it's really important to say, what's the pressure actually I'm putting on myself here?
Yes.
What clients are demanding from me in one way, shape or form. And, it's all negotiable. And I know sometimes, I've certainly forgotten that. So it's about looking to myself first to say, what's the pressure I'm putting on myself here? And what do I need to renegotiate, manage my own expectations, and give enough to myself so that I can give to other people in return. And, just another simple example was, the way I used to manage my holidays, it was not regenerating at all. I realized I was sending myself off on holidays that were all adventures. Right. And I was back, having had an amazing time, completely exhausted, and not refreshed. And just realizing simple things like that, and then going, okay, so the holidays need to be proper relaxation, and I do adventure some other way.
Yeah.
I think it's just working out what really gives to you. You need to put into your life to ensure that you're really well resourced.
Yeah. I think that lesson in itself is the one, actually, I think is the foundation, is knowing that in any 24-hour period, you can't do a third on yourself and a third on your family and a third on your business. There's just not enough hours in the day. But if over a period of time, you can ensure that you try to address those balances and check in with it and make sure that you're getting some of that balance, then hopefully that triangle is the foundation of strength that you just build and build on. And I think if you demonstrate it, your people feel empowered to also behave that way, which just layers more and more success.
No, absolutely. What I'm really clear about, though, is that my number one priority, which is my son and his future. Yes. Then if the other things need to be negotiated, if I'm not going to be such a good friend for 2 or 3 months, and not pursue sort of social activities with my friends, so be it. But that one never gets compromised.
No, very much so. Well, Maggie, it's been a great pleasure to speak with you today. Your journey with MROI, and also just your own personal drivers and why you chose this path, have been so insightful. Not only for me, but I know for everyone who'll be listening in the coming weeks and months. I really appreciate you opening up to us today and sharing your journey with us.
Oh, great pleasure, Mita. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been great. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
Bye-bye.